Alicia Greer.
What does it mean to be rich? Close your eyes, take a minute to think about it. Picture yourself rich, what do you see? Do you see dollar bills flying all around you? Or maybe you see yourself swimming through mountains of gold coins, kind of like in DuckTales, right? Or maybe you see yourself in a huge house with a bunch of fancy cars, a yacht, and a private jet plane to get you wherever you want to go. That's how most people picture rich. When I was younger, I told myself that I would never depend on anybody else for money, that I would find a job and make enough money so that I could be financially independent. And when I was about 30 years young, I landed a really well-paying job, and I was making a lot of money. And I loved it. But I also loved a man in the military. Yeah. And several years after I was working, he came down on military orders to move to another country. And I had to make a decision. I could either leave my job and follow him, keep my family together, and give up on all of my dreams and everything that I had rooted myself in since I was a young girl. Or I could hire a nanny, and I could stay right where I was in New York City and continue to work and pursue my dreams. And ultimately, I decided to leave my job. And suddenly, I was unemployed. I woke up the next morning and I had no job. I was not making a dime. And I thought I was worthless. A few years ago, I was speaking to a colleague of mine from that same job, and she was doing really well. She had climbed the corporate ladder on the fast track. She had a high-rise apartment in New York City. She was doing really well within that same company. And after congratulating her on her success, I said to her, honestly, I'm a little jealous of you. I wish I was in your shoes. You've got everything. And conversation went silent. And after a little while, she said back to me, Alicia, I'm jealous of you, and I wish I was in your shoes. She said, you have somebody to come home to at night. You have had time to cultivate your relationships. You have a family. You can call on any number of friends from the friendships that you have had time to build. And I was just floored. I was flabbergasted, right? I couldn't believe that somebody who I thought had everything in life was jealous of me who had nothing. And I took some time to reflect on what she said to me. And I reflected deeply. And I couldn't believe what she was telling me. See, the very thing, leaving my job, the very thing that I thought was keeping me from becoming rich was actually making me more rich than I could have ever imagined. And it's a richness that you can't buy, that you can't put a price tag on. And it's a richness that lasts. I had become rich in relationships. And I thought about all of my friends that I had made in the past, that I had time to cultivate relationships with throughout high school and playing on sports teams together. And it made me feel very warm and full inside. See, you can be financially rich and still lead an empty life. But when you're rich in relationships, your cup is always full, and nobody can steal that from you. If you have money in your pocket, You can walk away, and that money, that wealth is going to stay with you, and you alone. But when you're rich in relationships, you can walk away, and everybody that you interact with and all of the relationships that you build, that wealth is shared among you, and it doesn't go away. And thinking about all my friends and thinking about doing stuff with them that didn't cost any money, shooting the breeze, hanging out at the house, doing other stuff that we don't need to talk about, right? Things that make you smile when you think about your friends, when you're just hanging out with them. That gives me this warm, fulfilled feeling inside, and it makes me smile. And I thought, my gosh, how can I hold on to this richness? How can I make sure that my kids and my friends understand this and don't fall into that same trap that I did in this pursuit of being financially rich, but learn to value their relationships instead? What does it mean to be rich in relationships? And this is what I came up with. A rich relationship is a relationship that has value. It has meaning. A rich relationship makes you a better person, and it makes the other person a better person. And when you increase your value in the world, and you increase the other person's value in the world, and you put that together, you increase the overall value in the world, and guess what? You make the world a better place through your rich relationships. See, sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's hard, but it is always, always worth it. That conversation that I had with my friend, that was easy. We were just talking. And I pointed out the things to her, and she pointed out the things to me that we were undervaluing, that we were missing. And we built each other up. We made each other feel better about the paths that each of us had taken. And we need that. I needed that. Sometimes it's really hard to see value in yourself. Right? What do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see that hair, right? That hair that's out of place? Or maybe you see that mole on your face that you think everybody else sees, or maybe you think your smile is a little bit crooked, or maybe you have a zit that you just can't get rid of. It's really hard to see value in yourself. We have a tendency to criticize ourselves so closely that we don't get to see the big picture. And that was me. That's exactly what I did. I was looking at all of my friends that were pursuing their dream jobs, and I wasn't. And I was jealous. I was envious. And that envious nature acts like a blindfold over your eyes. A blindfold that prevents you from seeing your own value. And it wasn't until my friend pointed out to me my relationships with my family, with my friends, that I began to let go of that jealousy and learn to value myself. So that's the first half in becoming rich in relationships. Learn to value yourself. Lift that blindfold of jealousy. Let go of that envious nature. And learn to value yourself instead of coveting what others have. Understand that your flaws make you who you are. And your friends probably don't even think they're flaws. And your friends don't care how much money you have. So that's the first half. Learn to value yourself. The second half, right? Learn to value others. Take care of each other. Have you ever noticed that everything that you have to protect you from harm is in the front of your body? Your eyes face forward. Your ears actually face forward as well. You can hear behind you, but you hear better towards the front. And your arms, they extend out to the side and they extend forward, but it's really kind of hard to bend yourself back here, right? And even your legs, you can kick forward, you can run forward, but you really don't kick backwards with much power. So everything that you were designed with to prevent harm from coming upon you is facing forward. Your back, completely vulnerable. We just weren't made to survive alone. We have to watch each other's backs. We need to take care of each other. My grandparents were immigrants from China. My dad worked 2 jobs, and my mom inherited the Chinese restaurant from my grandparents. I grew up in a middle-class family, in a middle-class neighborhood. We always had enough money, but we didn't have very much. And when I was in about junior high school, I started playing sports. And my brothers, I'm one of 5 children, my brothers were also playing sports. And I would bring 2 or 3 friends home, and my brother would bring 2 or 3 friends home, and my other brother might bring a couple of friends home as well. And before we knew it, we'd have a house full of people. That's a lot of people. 5 kids to start with, and then everybody has 2 or 3 friends over. That's a lot of people in one house. We had so many people in our house so often that our house used to be called the rec center, the local rec center where people would gather and have fun. And my parents, they fed everybody. And they made sure that we made it to and from practice. And those people, sometimes they even spent the night with us. And sometimes they even spent the weekend with us. To this day, some of those people that we grew up with still call my parents mom and dad. And they thought that we were rich. And I knew that we were not rich because I could not buy anything unless it was on the clearance rack from Hex Company. Or we would go to Chinatown, and my mom would bargain and haggle so that we could buy the knockoff polo shirts or the knockoff Guess jeans, because those were the big brands in style when I was a kid. I knew we weren't rich. But the irony of it is that my friends were right. We just weren't rich in the way that they thought that we were. We were rich in relationships. See, my parents, they were taking care of other people. They were enriching the lives of others in the neighborhood, and the other parents in the neighborhood, they were doing the same. There was never a hungry mouth in my house. My parents always made sure that it was fed. They always made sure that those kids had rides to and from practice. And they always made sure that if anybody needed a place to stay, there was a pillow and a blanket waiting, and maybe a floor or a couch, but there was always a roof over their heads. My parents were taking care of others. And some of those kids earned scholarships to college. And some of them even ended up playing in the NBA. And some of them in the NFL. And many of them are now leaders in our community. And it all starts from 2 people that understood that the value of taking care of each other far exceeds any value of anything that you could put in your pocket. I learned a lot from my parents. So I've got 4 kids of my own now, and they're young. They're all under the age of 10. And the other day, they were fighting, which they do quite often. And 2 of them came up to me and said, "Mom, he stole my toy," or "He punched me, he kicked me." And so I said, "Okay, so what do you think I'm going to say to you?" Which is a response that I give them a lot. And one of them said to me, "Oh, you're going to tell us to stop fighting and to get along." And I said, "Nope. I don't care if you get along, because you can get along with somebody that you don't care about, and you can get along with somebody and never like them. You can get along with somebody and never solve a problem that you have with them. Getting along is not enough. To get along is to get by. We must take care of each other. You have to take it a step further and take care of each other. So how do you become rich in relationships? You learn to value yourself. You value others and increase their value by taking care of them. You have the power to make yourself a better person. You have the power to make the person next to you a better person. You have the power to make the world a better place through your rich relationships. The path that you take to become financially rich can rob you of the rich relationships that you would otherwise cultivate. We must understand that your strength lies not in what you have, but in what you have to give. So be rich in relationships, and let's make this world a better place together.